What's up? What's up? All right. Apologize. Been really busy. Got something the other day from the courts. So let's go through it real quick. This is a order to show cause. Now, I think this is actually some good news because as we read this, I will point some things out to you. They are actually looking at my case, and then we'll go through what they're asking and my response. So this says this case is before Magistrate Judge Dustin Peed, pursuant to blah, 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 a referral from D. Benson. Okay, currently pending is Defendant Office of Recovery Services, that's child support, motion to dismiss, and if you've watched my videos, you know about the different motions I put in for summary judgment because of their bullshit with not sending me any of the paperwork. And for the record, all of this is for documentation purposes only. This is not legal advice. This is just what's going on with my case. So anyway, we filed a couple of different motions for summary judgment. And, you know, if you don't get stuff in the mail and then we check Pacer and they file paperwork, then it makes you look like an idiot. And then you have to file more paperwork and say, hey, man, well, I never got anything. And he's, you know, fraudulent and all that other stuff. So these guys know I have a case, and that's why they're fucking with me. So anyway, let's go through this here. This says that the court must, let's get it up here so we can read it here. It says, this court must, sua sponte, satisfy itself of its power to adjudicate in every case and at every stage of the proceedings. Okay? Because the plaintiff is pro se, the court carefully reviews Mr. Dmoomey's complaint with an eye towards liberal construction of the pleading. Okay? Now that's actually good. Okay? That means that because you're pro se, you are not bound by a lawyer to follow very, very strict rules of civil procedure. Okay, they're going to look at the language, they're going to look at what you brought up, and they're not going to focus so much on, you know, Rule 12B7J62.I. Okay, which is good. So on page 2 here, federal courts are courts of limited jurisdiction. Now this is where it gets good right here. As such, they possess only that power authorized by the Constitution and statute. Well, I would love to be in a constitutional court. The burden of establishing federal jurisdiction rests upon the party asserting it. Okay? Well, I told them they have jurisdiction. Absent diversity or federal question jurisdiction, this court is prohibited from hearing Mr. Dmoomey's case and dismissal is appropriate. The court lacking jurisdiction must dismiss the case at any stage of the proceeding in which it becomes apparent that the jurisdiction is lacking. Okay, so here's the good part. Here, the plaintiff establishes neither. Okay, paragraph 2 of the complaint states, the venue of this court is correct. This is what it says in my bill of inequity. And Douglas Richard Dmoomey does business in the state of Utah. Okay, all cap, all cap. Okay, and Douglas Richard Dmoomey is diverse from the United States, doing business in the United States. That would be through my straw man, and the amount in controversy is over 75. Okay, plaintiff appears to imply that the court has diversity jurisdiction. That's the key word right there. However, plaintiff is a Utah resident and ORS is a statutorily authorized blah, 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 created within the Department of Human Services. Okay. Federal diversity statute does not recognize diversity subject matter jurisdiction over suits against states by their citizens. Okay. Well, we're going to get to that. In turn, there is nothing set forth in Mr. Dmoomey's complaint that indicates the exercise of federal question jurisdiction is appropriate. There's another number, 1331, 1332. You're going to have to remember that too. Rather, the claims seek execution of the law of the contract. Judgment on plaintiff's administrative remedy is res judicata. Okay? Accordingly, plaintiff is hereby ordered to show cause no later than November 20th. So, if you go back as to why the complaint should not be dismissed for lack of subject matter jurisdiction. Okay, so let's get rid of this crap real quick and go to our response. Okay, so again, certified mail numbers, the date, right? Cut and paste all this from the other thing, right? Here's your little boxes, right? It's got your little box where you can put stuff in. You got another little box over here so you can put all that stuff in. Okay, so this is my response to order to show cause. And the question is diversity, okay? Is there subject matter jurisdiction, and can I prove to this court that there is diversity? So let's read this. The authorized representative of the plaintiff, Douglas Richard Dmoomey, okay, that should be diverse right there because that is not the same person as that, respectfully responds to this honorable court's order to show cause and will seek to provide evidence that Douglas Richard Dmoomey is correct in his claim of diversity, which will allow this court to properly address its concern. Mr. Dmoomey appreciates the court's concern and has now asserted lots of information for the court to ponder before it makes a decision. If there is even a slight resemblance of plausibility of plaintiff's claims for relief, this court must deny the defendant's motion and allow the plaintiff to be heard. The trust documents that's right, I got trust documents, don't I? The trust documents attached show a clear and concise separation of the real man and the legal fiction. Douglas Richard Dmoomey is diverse and would respectfully move this court for summary judgment on his administrative process and deny defendant's frivolous motion to dismiss. And then I put in here, I apologize for any redundancy, but this is important. Okay? So let's try to burn through this. We got actually 9 pages. So this is a fact. Number 1, a federal court that, deriving its jurisdiction from the Constitution, Article 3, Section 2, okay, that's where the federal judiciary gets their authority, hears cases arising under the Constitution and the laws and treaties of the United States, cases in which the United States is a party, and cases between the state and citizens of different states, also termed a constitutional court. So I think I might be in the right venue. Now, I went to Black's Law. It's right here, Black's Law 5th edition, diversity. In a criminal pleading at common law, a plead by the prisoner in bar of execution alleging that he was not the same who is attainted, okay, which means basically the one that was, arrested or convicted, okay? And then it says here the identity of the person. So then I put in here, person is a corporation, not a real man, okay? So that's what diversity is. And then it tells you in there to see diversity jurisdiction and see diversity of citizenship, okay? So what is diversity of citizenship? Diversity of citizen is a phrase used with reference to the jurisdiction of the federal courts, okay? That's exactly what he wrote to me in my order to show cause. Under Article 3, Section 2, it extends to cases between citizens of different states, okay, like a state of mind, state of being, designating the condition existing when the party on one side of a lawsuit is a citizen of one state and the party on the other side is a citizen of another state, or, here it is, between a citizen of a state and an alien. The requisite jurisdictional must amount, blah, 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 be met, 28-13-32. There it is right there. That's what he's asking about, okay? So do we have diversity in citizenship? Well, let's just read this. Plaintiff's representative asserts complete, registered, publicly recorded diversity from the United States and its agency, the state of Utah. Mr. Dmoomey is not a corporation. Please see page 1 of Exhibit B. Debtor is public and secured party, that's me, is private. Let's look at that real quick. Okay? UCC financing statement, debtor is a trust, right? Look at that, secured party. Oh, so there is diversity. ORS is a corporation, therefore operates in a fictional color of law public jurisdiction. Public. Mr. Dmoomey operates in private, in the real world. So there is diversity. Mr. Dmoomey also understands that if this court is an Article 1 court, okay, just throwing this out there, because they might also be bound by administrative law, operating in admiralty or statutory jurisdiction under administrative law, then this court knows that all agencies operating in admiralty must be enforcing some international maritime contract. Does ORS have a contract with the plaintiff? Of course they don't. It's an implied contract. Does ORS have a contract with the real man? No, I don't think they do. Therefore, constitutionally protected rights are possibly inviolate, and this court is correct because I am a man. I have rights, and that shows diversity. Mr. Dmoomey has also noticed ORS and its agents of copyright infringement sent certified mail, blah, 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 blah. A copy was sent to the caseworker and the executive director demanding they cease and desist all collection activity until they provide proof of a debt. What? This guy has a what? Does everybody know that copyright is federal? Copies of this can be entered if the court desires. Copyright law is federal, so this court has subject matter jurisdiction in that aspect. See exhibit, I just showed that to you. Mr. Dmoomey cannot be forced to comply with some bill of attainder he did not consent to, nor authorize. A bill of attainder is in the Constitution, so federal constitutional subject matter jurisdiction questions apply. This court, whether you are in Article 3 or in Article 1, must allow me to be heard. Mr. Dmoomey completed a private administrative process against ORS and asked this court to review his process and grant relief from this legal slavery. Mr. Dmoomey, a man, believes this court is correct for real living souls, where we the people receive protection of our God-given rights. Mr. Dmoomey believes and is confident this court knows that state courts are inferior administrative and therefore Article 1 courts set up and designed to produce revenue for the state by enforcing corporate policies. These inferior courts have administrators as judges and work for the agency involved, and there's plenty of case law about that. Plaintiff's representative asserts that administrative law governs the operation of administrative agencies and the relations to the public only. Douglas Richard Dmoomey is public. Douglas Richard Dmoomey is private. Therefore, there is diversity, as seen in the legal notice and demand attached with definitions. You got a legal notice and demand? What is that? Well, I'm glad you asked. I'm not going to show you this whole thing because this is private, but if you just kind of stop it, you can see that the undersigned is not a citizen within the United States, the surety for, the subject of, an officer of, and does not owe allegiance to, fealty, bond, undertaking, obligation to any of you punks. That's a vessel in commerce, okay? There's a difference. There is diversity. Okay, I'm not going to show you the whole thing. Okay? But these people have already been noticed with this legal notice in man. Oh, and by the way, to all state, federal, and international public officials, this is a contract in admiralty, and this title is for your protection. And if you read it, it says, I'm not in your jurisdiction anymore, bud. So leave me the alone. Okay, going back. Plaintiff's representative asserts. This court is aware that Douglas Richard Dmoomey, all caps, as seen on documents, the plaintiff, is considered a straw man, a vessel in commerce, a legal entity, a U.S. citizen, a corporation. Mr. Dmoomey, the representative of the plaintiff, is not a U.S. citizen. U.S. citizen is federal. The plaintiff is federal. It grants you jurisdiction. And a man is sovereign. That also shows diversity. Who is being coerced by a state agency, which proves there is diversity of citizenship and has clearly been adjudicated by higher courts going back to the beginning of this country. So, here's the case law. And you might want to write some of these down if you want. The term resident and citizen, notice it's in lowercase, of the United States is distinguished from a citizen, oh, look at that, uppercase, of one of the several states. And in that, the former U.S. citizen is a special class of citizen created by Congress, right? It's a legal fiction. We have in our political system of government, United States government, each of the several states, each one of these governments is distinct from the other, and each has citizens of its own. United States versus Cruikshank. Okay? Here's another one, McDonald versus State. Tasha versus Jordan. A citizen of the United States is a citizen of the federal government. Okay? There is a citizen of the United States and a citizenship of a state. Booyah! And if you read my legal notice and demand and my trust documents, I separate myself from the ends leave U.S. citizen corporation. So there is diversity. The court might be presuming I'm a federal citizen, but there are different classes of citizens. And it is up to me to rebut this assumption, by using the birth certificate, my trust documents, and my UCC filing. For the record, I am not a U.S. citizen as defined in United States Code. I am not. The plaintiff is a government-created entity used in the ordinary course of business and used by legal fiction agencies of government to contract with real living souls. That should be and is diverse. There are then, under our Republican form of government, two classes of citizens, one of the United States and one of the state. Okay, Gardena versus Board of Registrars. That's in 1909. The governments of the United States and each of the state or the sub-state are distinct from one another. So basically, I just demolished them. Okay? So, and then I went into the Office of Recovery Services funded by the federal government under United States Code and enforces federal child support law. ORS might have written legislation authorizing their authority, but only through a contract with the federal government known as the United States. If ORS is in contract with the federal government, then ORS must be in contract with me, motherfucker. There must be voluntary compliance by a real living soul to be the surety or principal behind their legal orders. Forcing a man to comply is illegal and should raise federal questions about rights to be let alone, rights to raise my children as I see fit, rights to be secure in my property, the right to work, the right not to work. So there is a question of rights, my right to contract, and I believe this venue is correct. Okay, here's the summary, because we're already at 20 minutes. In response to the court's question about paragraph 2, the venue of this court is correct as a legal fiction, does business in a legal fiction, and a man is not a fiction from the United States of legal fiction, doing business through coercive, invisible contracts that have been rebutted in the UCC filing, and the amount in controversy is over $75,000. And for the record, your codes and statutes and regulations being forced also give this court subject matter jurisdiction because they violate due process. It is a state agency violating the rights of a U.S. citizen. Is ORS using a social security number without permission? Yes, they are. They never got it from me. They got it from her. Has ORS violated the Federal Debt Collection Practices Act? That's also federal. So you've got state citizens and federal, violating federal law, copyright law. So yeah, we just blew it all up. Okay, then we got our certificate of service. All right. So that's what's going on. I apologize. Hello to all the new people. If I can help you guys, please. I've got documents, but I haven't won anything yet. So, go to High Frequency Radio, go to Old Dog New Tricks, go to, Amen Osiris, go to Rick W. Get some knowledge. Please don't call me Sunday afternoon like one guy did and tell me that he has court Monday morning and he's starting his trial and can I help him? Because, yeah. All right. Peace, guys.